The room fell silent as the 7 alien delegates of the Galactic Council stared down at the lone human woman. Jiho Park stood tall, despite her small frame, her black diplomatic uniform a stark contrast against the bright chamber. "The Council has reached its decision," announced Delegate Morn, his blue skin rippling with displeasure. "Humanity is too dangerous to remain within civilized space." Jiho's heart sank, but her face remained calm. She had spent 3 years as Earth's ambassador, trying to convince the Council that humans deserved a place among the stars. Now it seemed all her work had failed. "What exactly is our crime?" she asked. Her voice echoed through the vast chamber. Delegate Trex, a reptilian being with golden scales, flicked his tongue before answering. "It is not one crime, but your very nature. Your species spreads too quickly. You adapt too readily. You take risks no sensible race would consider. Those are traits that helped us survive," Jiho argued. "They're strengths, not flaws." "They are dangerous," hissed Delegate Vril. Her insect-like mandibles clicked together. "In just 50 years, since discovering faster-than-light travel, humans have established colonies on 17 worlds. Your population growth is unchecked. Your technology advances too rapidly." The head delegate, an ancient being named Olos, whose body was mostly hidden beneath flowing robes, raised a gnarled hand. "The decision is final. All humans will be relocated to Sector 9, the region you call the Void." Jiho struggled to keep her voice steady. "The Void has almost no habitable planets. The few star systems there have minimal resources. You're sentencing billions to death." "You will be permitted to take your fleets and whatever supplies you can carry," said Olos. "The Council is not without mercy." "This isn't mercy," Jiho shot back. "It's fear. You're afraid of us because we're different." Murmurs spread among the delegates. She had struck a nerve. "The Council will escort your fleet to the border of Sector 9 in 30 Earth days," continued Olos, ignoring her comment. "Any humans found in Council space after that time will be considered outlaws." Jiho felt dizzy. 30 days to relocate. 15 billion humans spread across multiple star systems. It was impossible. "You're making a terrible mistake," she said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "Humanity has much to offer the galactic community. We could be valuable allies." "The Council has spoken," said Olos firmly. "This meeting is adjourned." As the delegates filed out, Jiho stood frozen, her mind racing. Her assistant, Doyen, approached. Cautiously. "What now, Commander?" he asked. Jiho took a deep breath. "Now we save as many of our people as we can." The next 30 days passed in a blur of activity. Earth's military and civilian fleets worked around the clock to evacuate human colonies. Some chose to hide, hoping to blend in with alien populations. Most, however, followed orders and joined the massive fleet gathering near the border of the Void. On the final day, Jiho stood on the bridge of the flagship Terra Prime, watching as the last refugee ships arrived. Beside her, Admiral Junho Kim studied the reports with a grim expression. "How many?" she asked. "Just over 9 billion, he replied. "We lost contact with our outer colonies yesterday. We have to assume they're still evacuating on their own." Jiho nodded. "And supplies. Enough for 6 months, if we're careful. After that?" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to, A communication officer called out, "Commander, Council ships approaching." On the view screen, a fleet of sleek alien vessels appeared, their weapons clearly visible. "Our escorts to exile," muttered Jiho bitterly. The main view screen flickered, and Delegate Olos appeared. "Commander Park, is your fleet ready to depart?" "We need more time," she pleaded. "We still have colonies that haven't been fully evacuated." "The deadline stands," said Olos coldly. "Move your fleet toward the Void now, or we will open fire." Jiho looked around at her crew. Scared faces looked back at her, waiting for direction. "Set course for Sector 9, she ordered quietly. "Signal all ships to follow." As the massive human fleet began to move, Jiho turned back to the view screen. "Remember this day, Delegate. You think you're solving a problem, but you're creating a greater one. Someday, the Council will regret this decision." Olos's expression didn't change. "Farewell, Commander Park." As the connection cut, Jiho watched through the viewport as thousands of human ships moved slowly toward the dark region of space known as the Void. Behind them, the bright worlds of Council space grew smaller. Ahead lay only uncertainty and hardship. "They think they've gotten rid of us," Jiho said softly. "They don't understand humans at all." The ship shook violently as it entered the atmosphere of the barren planet. Tae-ho Kim gripped his seat tightly, watching through the small window as the red dust storm outside whipped against the hull. "Will this one work?" asked Yeona, his assistant, her voice strained by months of disappointment. "It has to," Tae-ho replied simply. "We're running out of options." 3 years had passed since humanity's exile to the Void. The first months had been the hardest. Over 2 million people died in the initial weeks as life support systems failed on overcrowded ships. Food ran out faster than expected. Hope dwindled there. Fleet had split up, searching for any habitable worlds in this forgotten sector of space. Most found nothing but dead rocks and poisonous gas giants. This planet, designated H-17, was their latest attempt. The landing was rough. When Tae-ho and his team of scientists stepped outside, bitter wind carrying red dust immediately stung their faces. They wore breathing masks. The air contained enough oxygen to survive, but toxic particles made it dangerous to breathe directly. "Take samples quickly," Tae-ho ordered. "We need to know if we can grow anything here." While his team worked, Tae-ho climbed a small ridge to get a better view. The landscape stretched out barren and lifeless. Red rocks, dust, and more dust. But there was water. That's what had brought them here. Sensors had detected underground. "Rivers?" His communication device buzzed. It was Commander Park. "What's your assessment, Dr. Kim?" Jiho's voice was thin and tired. 3 years of leading what remained of humanity had taken its toll. "Better than Outpost 5, he answered honestly. "The radiation levels are manageable. There's water underneath the surface. The soil is poor, but we might be able to modify it." "Might isn't good enough anymore," she responded. "We have 8,000 people on life support that's failing. We need a home, not another temporary solution." Tae-ho looked out at the dusty wasteland. "Give me 3 months with the terraforming equipment, if we concentrate on just one valley to start." "You have 1 month," she cut him off. "That's all the time we have left." The next 4 weeks were the hardest of Tae-ho's life. His team worked around the clock, setting up the atmospheric processes that would begin filtering the air. They dug deep wells to reach the underground water. They used the last of their precious engineered bacteria to begin breaking down the soil into something that might support crops. The first shelters were built as ships began landing with desperate, hungry colonists. People who had once been doctors, teachers and engineers now learned to become farmers and builders. Every scrap of technology was reused. Nothing was wasted. On the 28th day, Tae-ho stood watching as Jiho Park inspected their work. The small valley now contained rows of pressurized greenhouses. Giant fans recycled the air through filtering systems. Wells pumped water to storage tanks. "Will it be enough?" Jiho asked simply. Before Tae-ho could answer, a young woman ran up to them, excitement on her face despite her exhaustion. "Dr. Kim, the first seedlings are sprouting." They rushed to the main greenhouse. Inside, tiny green shoots were pushing through the reddish soil. The scientists and workers gathered around, some crying openly at the sight. "It's just the beginning," Tae-ho cautioned. "We'll need months before we have an actual harvest." "But it proves we can survive here," Jiho said, her voice strengthening. "We can make this work." 6 months later, the colony had grown. They called it New Begin. 4,000 people now lived in shelters built from ship parts and local materials. The first modest harvest had been collected. Not enough to feed everyone fully, but enough to supplement their dwindling supplies. Tae-ho sat outside his small dwelling, watching the sunset turn the sky a deep purple. The constant wind had died down for once. "Dr. Kim," a small voice called. A girl of about 10 stood nearby, holding something in her hands. She was part of the first generation born in exile, children who had never known Earth or the comforts of council space. "What is it, Sujin?" he asked. She opened her hands to reveal a small insect, one of the modified species they had released to help process the soil. "It's changed," she said excitedly. "Look at its wings." Tae-ho examined the creature. The insect had indeed adapted. growing larger wings that likely helped it navigate the constant winds. "It's evolving," he said with wonder, "already adapting to this world." "Just like us," Sujin said with the simple wisdom of children. Taiho smiled for the first time in months. "Yes," he agreed, "just like us." Later that night, he reported the finding to Jiho. "This is significant," he explained. "If the engineered organisms are adapting naturally, the process will accelerate. The planet is changing faster than we predicted." Jiho nodded, a spark of hope in her tired eyes. "Then so will we. The Council thought this place would be our end. Instead, it will become our new beginning." The small ship drifted silently through the asteroid field. Captain Subin Lee checked her instruments again, frowning at the readings. "Something wasn't right. Are you sure about these energy signals, Jiwoo?" she asked her science officer. Jiwoo nodded, her eyes fixed on her screen. "Yes, Captain. It's faint, but definitely artificial, coming from the large asteroid ahead." 20 years had passed since humanity's exile to the void. What had once been a desperate struggle for survival had gradually transformed into a network of 6 small colonies spread across the sector. Resources were still scarce, which was why Subin's ship, the Explorer, searched the asteroid fields for valuable minerals. "Should we call for backup?" asked Minho, her pilot. Subin considered this. The nearest colony was 3 days away at their best speed. "No, we'll check it ourselves, but stay alert." They guided the ship toward a massive irregular asteroid nearly 10 kilometers across. As they drew closer, Subin spotted an unusual feature on its surface, a perfectly straight line that couldn't be natural. "There," she pointed. "That looks like an entrance." After docking on the asteroid's surface, the team of 5 donned their spacesuits. Subin led the way, followed by Jiwoo, Minho, and 2 security officers, Hyun and Daiho. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness as they approached the mysterious line. It was indeed an entrance, a door of some kind, made of a dark material. None of them recognized. It stood slightly ajar, as if waiting for them. "This doesn't look like Council technology," Jiwoo said, scanning the door with her equipment. "It's much older." "How old?" asked Subin. Jiwoo looked up, her face visible, through her helmet visor. "Based on the decay patterns, possibly hundreds of thousands of years." Subin's heart raced. "Can we open it further?" With some effort, they managed to widen the gap enough to enter. Inside, their lights revealed a corridor that seemed to lead deep into the asteroid. The walls were covered with strange symbols, unlike any language humans had encountered before. "Record everything," Subin ordered. "Every symbol, every detail." They moved carefully through the corridor, which eventually opened into a vast chamber. As they entered, lights suddenly activated, dim blue illumination that seemed to respond to their presence. "It's still working," whispered Minho in awe. After all this time, the chamber contained numerous devices and structures of unknown purpose. In the center stood a raised platform with what appeared to be a control panel. "Captain," called Daiho from across the room, "you should see this." They joined him at a wall covered with what looked like a star map. Jiwoo studied it intensely, then gasped. "This is our galaxy," she said. "And this mark here," she pointed to a particular region, "is the void." "Are you sure?" asked Subin. "Positive. And look, these other markings throughout the void. They could be locations of outposts like this one." Subin moved to the central platform. "Can you make sense of this control panel?" Jiwoo examined it carefully. I think this might activate some kind of database." "Do it," Subin ordered. Jiwoo hesitated. "Captain, we have no idea what technology this is. It could be dangerous. We've been exiled to a region of space with no resources, Jiwoo. Whatever risk this presents, we need to take it." After several attempts, Jiwoo managed to activate the system. A holographic display appeared above the platform, 3-dimensional images showing various technologies, star systems, and what appeared to be life forms, unlike any they had seen before. "What is this place?" Minho asked in wonder. "I believe," Jiwoo said slowly, "that we've discovered an outpost belonging to a species that preceded the Council, maybe preceded all known current civilizations." "The predecessors," Subin whispered. "An old legend among Council races spoke of an ancient civilization that had ruled the galaxy long ago before mysteriously vanishing. Most considered it a myth. Over the next several hours, they explored the outpost, downloading as much data as their systems could handle. Jiwoo worked to decipher the information, while the others searched for anything of immediate value. In a smaller chamber, Hyun discovered something that changed everything, a device that, when activated, displayed detailed information about the Yi. "Void, Captain," she called excitedly. "I think I know why the Council never settled this sector." The others gathered around as the device showed map after map of the Void, with hundreds of locations marked throughout. "The Void isn't empty because it lacks resources," Jiwoo said, as she analyzed the data. "It's empty because the Council deliberately avoided it. This entire sector is filled with predecessor technology." "But why would they avoid it?" asked Minho. "Fear," Subin said simply. "Fear of what they might find or what might find them." In one corner of the display, they noticed symbols flashing in a pattern. "What's that?" asked Daeho. Jiwoo studied it. I think it's a warning. Something about containment and dormant threat." "Collect everything we can," Subin ordered. "We need to get this information back to the colonies immediately." As they prepared to leave, Subin took one last look at the star map. She couldn't help but laugh at the irony. "The Yabin Council exiled us to the one place in the galaxy they were afraid to go," she said. "They thought they were punishing us. Instead, they may have given us the key to our future." 50 years after exile, the city of New Seoul gleamed under the light of twin suns. Towering buildings of crystal and a metal unknown before exile rose into the purple sky. Transport pods zipped along invisible tracks between structures. In the center of the city stood a monument, a simple stone column with the names of those who had not survived the early years. Hana Kwon gazed out from her office window at the city her grandparents had helped build. At 32, she held the position of chief engineer for the United Terran Alliance. Below her window, children played in a park with green grass and trees that had been carefully engineered to thrive in this once barren world. "Director Kwon, your next appointment has arrived," announced her assistant through the communication system. Hana turned from the window. "Send them in." The door slid open silently, and a young man entered. June was one of the brightest minds. "In the field of predecessor tech adaptation, the tests are complete," he said without preamble, excitement clear in his voice. "The new drive works perfectly." Hana's heart raced. "Show me." June activated a small device on his wrist, projecting a hologram in the center of the room. It showed a ship, smaller than traditional vessels but with an unusual configuration. "We've incorporated the predecessor's folding technology," he explained. "Instead of pushing through space like our old drives, this one temporarily folds space itself. The journey from here to Outpost 7 took 17 minutes instead of 8 days. "Any side effects?" Hana asked, walking around the hologram. "None." The ship and crew arrived in perfect condition. Hana allowed herself a small smile. "Begin production immediately. I want all colonial vessels retrofitted within 6 months. After June left, Hana sat at her desk and pulled up reports from across the 23 human colonies now thriving in the void. What had once been a desperate exile had transformed into something remarkable. The discovery of predecessor technology had changed everything. The ancient race had possessed knowledge far beyond even the Galactic Council's understanding. Over decades, human scientists had carefully studied and adapted their discoveries, leading to breakthroughs that would have been impossible otherwise. Her communication system chimed. "Director, we're receiving an unusual signal at the outer marker. It appears to be a non-human vessel." Hana frowned. No council ships had entered the void since the exile. "Put it on screen." The display showed a battered merchant vessel of Narlian design, a species known for trading throughout council space. "They're requesting emergency docking and assistance," her security chief reported. "They claim they're being pursued by pirates." "Grant permission but maintain security protocols," Hana ordered. 3 hours later, she met with the Narlian captain in a secure conference room. Captain Vel was a small grey-skinned being with large eyes that blinked rapidly as he took in his surroundings. We expected to find nothing but mining outposts, he admitted. The Council tells everyone the void is where humans struggle to survive. This, he gestured at the gleaming city visible through the window. This is not struggling. The Council has always underestimated us, Hana replied. Vel leaned forward. Pirates have become a serious problem in Council space. The patrol fleets are stretched thin. Member species argue constantly, while criminal organizations grow bolder. That doesn't concern us, Hana said coolly. It should, Vel countered, because they will eventually come here too. The pirates I escaped from, they've heard rumors about human advancements. They'll be looking for new technology to steal. After the Narlian ship departed, repaired and restocked, Hana called an emergency meeting with the Alliance leadership. Director Ji-hoon Park, grandson of the original Commander Park who had led humanity into exile, listened carefully to her report. So the mighty council is fracturing, he mused. Interesting timing, considering our own progress. The Narlian seemed genuinely surprised by our development, Hana noted. And word will spread, added Defense Director Sunwoo. Once other species learn what we've accomplished here, they'll want what we have. Ji-hoon stood and walked to the large window overlooking the city. My grandmother used to say that exile would make us stronger. She was right, but not in the way she expected. The Council's mistake wasn't just exiling us, it was forgetting about us. He turned back to the group. Prepare a diplomatic vessel. It's time we sent observers back to Council space. I want to know exactly what's happening out there. 2 months later, Hana stood in the launch bay, watching final preparations for the diplomatic mission. The ship, named Bridge, gleamed under the lights. It contained the best of human and adapted predecessor technology, faster, more efficient, and more advanced than anything the Council had seen 50 years ago. Commander Yoonju Kim, the mission leader, approached her. We're ready, Director, Hana nodded. Remember, this is observation only. Learn everything you can about the current state of Council space, but avoid direct contact if possible. Yoonju smiled. What if they detect us? Hana returned the smile. Then let them see how far we've come. As the bridge lifted silently from the launch bay and disappeared into the sky, Hana couldn't help but feel that humanity stood at the edge of a new chapter. What had begun as punishment had become opportunity, and the exiles had built something remarkable from nothing. The Council's worst mistake was about to become apparent to the entire galaxy. The emergency alarm cut through the quiet of midnight, jolting Admiral Minji Park from sleep. She was fully alert by the time she reached the command center of New Seoul's defense headquarters. Report, she ordered, her voice calm despite the flashing red lights. Admiral, we've received an emergency transmission, her communications officer explained. It's from the Galactic Council. Minji's eyebrows rose slightly. In the 100 years since humanity's exile, the Council had never once attempted communication. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, showing a face Minji. Recognized from intelligence briefings, Delegate Voss, the current head of the Council. The alien's normally blue skin looked pale and stress lines marked his face. This message is for the leaders of humanity, Voss began, his voice strained. The Galactic Council requests immediate assistance. We are under attack by a force we cannot defeat. 17 Council worlds have already fallen. Behind Voss, Minji could see what appeared to be a command center in chaos, with various alien species rushing back and forth. The threat appears to have originated from within what you call the void, Voss continued. Our records indicate your people may have encountered similar entities. We are prepared to offer full reinstatement of humanity into galactic society in exchange for your help. The message ended abruptly, replaced by sensor data showing massive destruction across multiple star systems. The Harvesters, said Director Taeyong Kang, who had entered the command center. It seems they've awakened. Minji nodded grimly. Predecessor records had warned of the Harvesters, an ancient automated weapons system created during a long-forgotten war. The predecessors had contained them within the void, which explained the Council's reluctance to explore the region. How long have we known about this threat? She asked. 30 years, Taeyong replied. Our deep research teams discovered the containment system 40 years ago. It was failing even then. We've been preparing defenses ever since. Minji studied the tactical display showing the harvester's path of destruction. And the council never bothered to check if the containment was holding. They just threw us in here and forgot about us. What are your orders, Admiral? Asked her second-in-command. Minji was silent for a moment. She thought of her great-grandmother, Commander Jiho Park, who had led humanity into exile with a promise that they would return stronger. She thought of the billions who had died in those early years, and the civilization humanity had built from nothing. Prepare the fleet, she said finally, all ships with predecessor-derived weapons systems, and send word to all colonies. This is not a drill. 3 days later, Minji stood on the bridge of the flagship Redemption as it dropped out of folded space near the Galactic Council's central world, Axios. The view on the main screen showed immediate chaos, dozens of Council ships desperately fighting against strange crystalline vessels that seemed to absorb energy weapons. They're using the wrong approach, Minji commented. Energy weapons only make the harvesters stronger. Council ships are hailing us, reported her communications officer. Open a channel to all Council forces, Minji ordered. When the connection was established, she spoke clearly. This is Admiral Minji Park of the United Terran Alliance. Fall back and regroup behind our ships. Your weapons are ineffective against this enemy. Without waiting for a response, she turned to her weapons officer. Deploy the phase disruptors. Target the lead harvester vessels first. The human fleet moved forward, their sleek ships displaying none of the Council's flashy design elements. Where Council vessels were massive and imposing, human ships were smaller, faster, more efficient, built with technologies adapted from predecessor discoveries. We adapted predecessor technology, Minji replied simply. The same technology that was abundant in the region you exiled us to. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Council has voted unanimously to end humanity's exile, Voss announced. All restrictions on human movement and settlement are hereby lifted. We invite humanity to rejoin galactic civilization as full members. Minji allowed herself a small smile. A century ago, my great-grandmother stood in this very spot and warned you that exiling humanity was a mistake. Today, I thank you for that mistake. The chamber fell silent. In your attempt to weaken us, you forced us to become stronger. She continued. In your fear of our potential, you pushed us to fulfill it. And now we return not as supplicants, but as equals, perhaps even as teachers. She looked around the chamber, meeting the gaze of each delegate. Humanity accepts your invitation. We will help defend against the harvesters and share our knowledge. But remember this lesson well. Never underestimate what desperate people can achieve when you leave them no choice but to succeed.